Okay. Unfolding the Garden, episode 2. So I thought we'd start just with a quick recap of what happened last time. Now I'm not gonna play through the video, but just as a bit of a reminder for people who are just joining us. So first of all, welcome everybody. This is a weekly stream called Unfolding the Garden, basically playing through early builds of Manifold Garden and looking at how the design changed over time. So it's basically, well, I brought it up just to show the image, but yeah, every Saturday at 1 p.m. Central, 1800 hour UTC. So last week was the first episode, and mostly this was, I kind of did a brief intro about my background and, kind of what I was doing before I started making the game. And then we kind of looked at some of the games that inspired me. I did a brief introduction of what Manifold Garden is about. And then we started looking at kind of the earliest builds starting in November 2012. December 2012. I wrote the game over Thanksgiving weekend in 2012. And we looked at the very first build. It was on a MacBook Air. Had it synced up to an Elgato and then fed into my desktop. It was like mini display to HDMI to Elgato, then to USB, and it came in as a video feed. So that was kind of cool that I was able to play it on the MacBook Air and show it live. The game was called Relativity because it was based on the MC Escher Relativity print. So kind of went through that, looked at a few of the builds. I think we went all the way up to February 2013. Alright, so now today we're going to start looking at the builds. The very first build we're going to be looking at is from March. I'll put it here so you guys can see. March. Yeah, March 6, 2013. So let's see, where was I? I was in Chicago at this point. I'd been working on the game for, I guess at this point, about 3-4 months. And, I just kind of been working on my own. I met a few other Chicago developers. And so every month, but hadn't had like too much interaction with them. Basically, the last Tuesday of every month in Chicago, there's an industry night where a bunch of developers will go hang out at a bar and talk. Mostly it's just an excuse to get drinks. So, I went to a few of these, and every December they do a holiday party. And usually what they'll do is they'll be at a bar, but they'll sell tickets and there'll be food and drink tickets, and some of the Chicago indie devs will show their games. Now I've shown it at since I first started going to these, I've shown it at one or two of the holiday parties. And when I was at the one in December 2012, I had met some of the Young Horses. They made Octodad, and I'd seen Octodad before. This is before the game came out, but they were on the cover of the Red Eye. Octodad Red Eye cover. The Red Eye is just a Chicago weekly journal. Anyway. Maybe it was the reader. Anyway, they were on the cover of some magazine. And I saw them. It was very cool. So, you know, I was like, hey, you know, I'd like to come and check out. I was like, hey, I've been working on this game. You guys are working on Octodad. I've been working on this game. Can I come by your office and show you the game? And they're like, yeah, sure. And you know, at the time, at the back of my mind, I was like, man, they've got like a massive team. I think they had like a team of eight or more. Maybe it was bigger. It was like maybe 12 on the first Octodad. And I was like, man, these guys have been working on the game for over 2 years and it's still not done. Like, what's wrong with them? You know, I've been working on this game for 3 months and I'm clearly a genius. So I went into their office and I believe this was the build I showed them. Let's see. Let's do 16. Let's do 1920 1080. You know what? I'm actually gonna not window it because then I can't click outside. Oh yeah. So you guys might remember the previous version of the game. You know, it was like the environment was changing. So like you had to hold down on the mouse button and then drag to the right or left, up or down to rotate, and it was sort of the entire room that changed. Now, I moved it. I changed a few things around, so you did not get gravity introduced right away. Now, I believe these were some random Egyptian assets I found on the asset store. So these were these were the earliest columns. I know if you've been watching the development stream, you'll know that I take great pride in the columns of the game. This is where it all started. You can see this is this is before I started using ProGrids, so I was kind of lining stuff up by eye. So there's a gap. You can see the Unity default skybox in the background, or just like the default sky color. Then, like, of course, here's like there's a bit of Z fighting, I think. Yeah, you can look at that. It seems very clear because you see it flashing. Let's start somewhere. So this is the build that I was super proud of. I thought I was going to go into the Young Horses office, show it to them, and they're going to be like, "Oh my God, this is the next Portal. You are a genius." So I had these crates. I don't know if you guys heard about the time to crate thing. It's when a game starts being bad, because it means a developer, once you see a crate in the game, it means the developer has run out of ideas. So first of all, so we had like all this physics, right? I remember being super proud that like I had these boxes I can move, but you can see the physics all freaks out. Very rolly. So alright, so here was like I had to get up to this button. So the idea was you had to like, well, it's pretty obvious. You have to stack 3 of them up. And you have their first step, your second step. Now, remember how I had the boxes? I remember one of the first comment from the Young Horses was like, why are the boxes here and the puzzles here? Like the puzzle is here and then I have to keep going back and getting a box and move, and I can only carry 1 box at a time. So that was a good insight, you know, like don't waste the player's time. Like I remember when I first placed the boxes, because I think when you have stuff in, well, no, even in real life you would place them near where you got to move them. Like there's a reason for doing things, but I had sort of just kind of placed them haphazardly. You can also see the pipes make no sense. 1 second. And let me get, I'm gonna open up Zoom it. Yeah, like they just kind of come in out of nowhere. Anyway, so you have to jump on this, and then jump up, and then you gotta grab. Can I even grab? Okay, I can grab this box. So you'll notice that there's no indication of like when you're close enough to pick up a box. The reticle always stays the same. Okay, and then you have to put this box on the red button. It's also very hard to gauge distance. Right, and then the red door opens. And, well, we're just gonna run into that. But, so yeah, let's take a look. This is like, oh. See, this had an interesting problem. Now, you might be wondering, like, why do I have 4 boxes here when you really only need 3 to solve this puzzle, right? Because it's 1, you stack 1, and then 2, and you jump up, and then you can take the top 1. Now, if there were only 3, this would actually be unsolvable if I fell back down here, because I wouldn't be able to get that 1. I guess I could jump and grab it. Oh yeah, I could jump and grab it. But you know, I think I might have added the 4th one, because if I fell down, you still needed another one to help you get back up. But you could position yourself in a way that this puzzle is not solvable. Oh yeah, and this was really annoying, which is why, like, if you play Manifold Garden now, the boxes don't rotate. They don't have like real physics, because this was really annoying. And I didn't want to have you like stacking boxes and struggling with that. Yeah, like if I pick up this one, you know, I could move both of them here, and then I think this would actually put me in a state where I can no longer, like if I were to jump down now, I'd have to restart the game, because I wouldn't be able to solve it. Alright, so, oh, there's no sound. This guy. So yeah, red box, red door. You can start to see that's where like the color coordination starts to happen. But then the problem was you would have 2 red buttons and 2 red doors, and then it was no longer clear. All right, so second level. Now I've got a U shape instead of just an L shape. We still have these pipes. All right, so let's see if this works. So I had to press this, and it said gravity inversion enabled. Press Q to invert gravity. Okay, so I believe in this case I think to introduce people to the gravity changing mechanic, I started off where you had an ability to change which direction the gravity went. Hey Grooves, yeah, we didn't start much. This is still the first build we're looking at. I mostly was just kind of caught people up on the last episode. So right, so I would press Q and then I could change the gravity, right? And this was like, okay, I had to open up the red door to open up the red box on the red door. But of course, this had this really annoying problem where it's like you could have it. Well, first of all, it's just really hard to tell. I don't even know why I had all these other boxes. I think they might have just been left over from the previous level. I must have copied this one by just copying the first level. Oh yeah, so you could also do this thing where you can just like press, I can press Q while in midair, and I can kind of make this thing float. So I'm just pressing Q. But yeah, see, it had this thing where it's like the box, if you hit it, you know, if you got it at like, if it was traveling too fast or something, it hit the box and then bounce away exactly like that. That's why I got rid of physics. It just wasn't fun. Oh, and then of course another trick is you can just stand beneath the button, like go and hit Q. Open the door. Right, you can see, yeah, this was before ProGrid, so things were lined up so you can often see like the sky peeking through. Is there a way to, I wonder if I can turn this off. Oh yeah, so once you turn it, oh no, you can still turn it off. Yeah, you can turn it off. Oh right, and I still had jumping. Oh, and you can see like my camera was in front of my character, right? So like, you could often, you can see up on the sides. I don't know if it's big enough, but if there was like a bit of clipping through. All right. No, you had to turn on the switch in order to be able to use Q. It was like you had to turn on the ability. Yeah, like the switch was basically there to introduce that ability to you. It's like, oh, now I have it. So no idea why the level loading took so long. Now I might have to actually. Alright, I think that might have been it. You know what? I think what we'll do is we'll actually skip ahead to the latest version, because let me look up to see when I went to talk to them. Let me dig up. The email that I sent. So the first email I sent to him was, yeah, March 11th, 2013. Like I said, I'm not going to show you the email. I don't want to give away his email address, but it says, how's it going? I'd like to come by the Young Horses office sometime and show you the game that I've been working on for the last few months. So we did Wednesday the 13th. So yeah, Wednesday the 13th. I think this is the build that I showed them. I must have made a new build that day. Yeah, and actually, let me see this. Oh yeah, so that had the instructions you'd hold up. So yeah, this was March 13, 2013. For some reason, the date modified is January 10th, 2013. I think my system date might have been wrong. Hey, Switchmark. Hello. Okay, so let's see here. So WSD. Click and drag to move any objects. Click to operate switches. Q to invert gravity. Oh, shift plus WSD to rotate an environment. Okay, so I didn't have that yet. Okay, so yeah, that's an interesting. So Right, I thought a way to introduce the mechanics. So this is quite complicated. So okay, let's solve this. Right, so remember they were like, why do I have to go all the way here to grab the box, then bring it here? Now we've got to go look for the boxes. Now this is even farther. Oh, right. Now we can press Q to invert gravity. Did I move 2 boxes? I don't think... I think I maybe just because of the physics, I think you could... yeah. But... that was not like a intentional design choice, more just because I was letting the physics do the stuff. Alright, so press Q and that's gonna go. Yeah, so this was really frustrating. This is why I got come on. It's because like when you hold the box, I guess I could just put it down. Now you'll notice like a lot of times what Portal does with these things is they'll put like a marking at the bottom and you can shoot on that. There we go. So no, I jumped on one and then jumped on another. I was really, really inspired by Portal in this first version. I mean, Portal was the only game I had played up to that point. So this game, this idea also moves itself. This idea here does find its way into the current version, but very, very, very different. I remember when I first showed this to the young horses, they had a really hard time understanding what they were supposed to do. So there's a few influences here. Now, this is from the game Rush Hour, not including Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Yeah, this is like since excluding my Tony Hawk Pro Skater phase when I was 14, this is kind of the only game I'd played as an adult. So some of you might have played this game. It's called Rush Hour, but it's like comes into this. So it's a physical toy, and it's got this like this base that's got this grid on it, and you got to put the cars on, and it's got a bunch of cards. So they're like these trucks and cars, and you want to get the red car out of here. So you can only slide them along the axis that they're in. And they had a bunch of cards that had like different arrangements. And this is like, there's probably like a version for the iPhone, but yeah, you would like set this up and then you had to kind of like slide these around and then get the red car out of the exit. And I thought this would be kind of cool to implement here as a game mode. So now there are a few things that I didn't do right, which is that these, again, the reticle does not show you when you can interact with something. The current one does it. The current one shows you when you're close enough to interact something, and when you're like holding on to something, and when it's actually interactable, right? So, but you can see it like highlights, but there was like no reason for them to kind of just click on these things because they're so dark, they look like they're part of the environment. And then there's also this other thing. This is a very mist thing, right? So basically, it's like you gotta. There's a key that you gotta get there, a symbol, and you gotta open up. So there's like the little, you know, the lock and key. So we gotta move this thing out of the way to get the red piece to touch this thing. So you had to like move it. You could like basically once you clicked on it, you could drag it around, and then you also sometimes you also have to move it as well because you didn't have like enough room. You know, you didn't have enough rotation room to move it. So let's see here. Move this out of the way. This is not really fun to solve. Okay, right, and then there we got the kind of camera. You can see the glass moving up. Oh, that's available. Now, for some reason, I kept physics on this. So, whoa. I think it just had like no gravity. I don't know why is it flying like that? Like it's like the tiniest flick and this thing just bounces around. Oh, yeah, this is not good. Yeah, it didn't have, I guess there was no friction, but I think that meant if I threw it up, I would end up not getting it. Anyway, yeah, to put in the air, you light up. Then, yeah, go into this. All right, level 4. All right, so here we start to... Oh, whoa. Drunk Devs, thank you for the host. Welcome everybody from Drunk Devs. My name is William. I'm currently showing how to kind of early builds of Manifold Garden. All right, so this is where, all right, so we here start to see where I sync up blue, where I sync up doors, the color of the door to the color of the button. So, for example, so I gotta put the box on the blue button. That opens up the blue door. Now I gotta get the red door to open up. And here, yeah, this is the early version from 2013, was very Portal inspired. Okay, so see, we gotta, now this is really annoying. Oh, right, so, okay, so this is actually kind of interesting, right? It's like I try to switch gravity, but this gets affected as well. This is actually not a bad puzzle, except for that, which is that you could solve it and then the box would just bounce out of the way. And now actually I think I am stuck because of this. So, oh yeah, now I'm stuck because somehow I've well, also for some reason there's no collider on the glass. So one way to kind of solve that is to do this, put it on the door, move in here, step on this guy. Right, so that's solved. The funny thing is, like I used the second box, but it was not intended, or the second box is a red herring, because the second box is to get you to put one on the blue and put one here, and then when you switch gravity, both of them move up. So, oh man, so the reason why this switching is happening is because I keep holding down shift to run, but the rotation was switch plus a direction. So here I've actually showed it. I actually had the ability unlocked too early. It should not be here where you. I mean, there were just a ton of problems. So you guys might remember this was the first level in the build from November, right? So you were not supposed to be able to unlock the ability to change gravity until here. And remember how at the early builds it was all controlled by mouse. Like you had to press the left button down, and then there'd be like this this UI would pop up, and then you would choose which direction to change. So what I did was I connected it to you had to like hold down Shift plus W or Shift plus WA, you know, Shift plus W, Shift plus A, Shift plus S, or Shift plus D. I realize now Shift plus WASD is a really bad direction, but what's even worse is everybody uses Shift to run. So, you know, you're going to be holding Shift to run, and then instead of running forward, you end up rotating. But now this causes a lot of motion sickness because of how slow it's moving. So, but what I thought was cool was because then I can have like side rotation. Now this is moving way too slowly. And at the time, I think I was very Inception inspired. I wanted like the cinematic rotation. Anyway, apologies in advance for all the motion sickness I'm causing y'all. What do they think? I mean, you know, yeah, it wasn't very good. A lot of problems. You'll see how I ended up changing the design of the game based on what they suggested. I do think they said making the rotation faster was something. So yeah, and I realized you really only needed to rotate forward. I missed the platform, so now we got to do this whole thing again. So no idea why. I think there was really no reason for the textures. It's going for a sci-fi look and didn't really have, you know, these are just all like random textures that I found. Oh yeah, you can move, so you had to like move a bit in midair as well. Alright, so again, this is a similar level that I showed in the previous build. Slight differences. Now, yeah, you still had death. Okay, so now it would automatically fade you out. There's P to restart the level. Oh, so here this is a cool thing because I think they didn't have boxes before. Oh, right. Okay. So, okay. So here's a difference with the gravity changing as it is currently implemented, which is in this case what was still being rotated was the environment and not the player. What I mean by this is if you take a look at the box, you'll see that the box is also going to slide down with me, right? And I thought that was kind of cool because of like Inception with the hallway scene. Now you might notice I'm also, oh god, I'm so used to holding down Shift to run, I keep accidentally rotating. You'll notice also that I'm not. It also like did not position me correctly, so I'm actually on a slight rotation. Anyway, one of the problems that I had with this and why I ended up getting rid of it was there was just no way to put objects in a level in a designed way, because, you know, it's like I can put a box here, you know, where it's like close to where you want to pick it up and use it. But as soon as you do the first rotation, whether it was intentionally or not, all of the items in the room end up in the bottom corner, right? So it's like all that level design work, it just ends up being a huge mess right away. And after the first rotation, all you've got is just this room full of stuff flying all over the place. You could bolt stuff down, but that felt like a very a natural compromise. Huh. Now where did the box go? Oh yeah, so the box is here. Right, so I need this. I need the box there with me. Now I think. Yeah. So you could carry in this version of the game. You could carry a box while you're rotating. In fact, I think that was intended. All right. So let's do this again. This is before the days of ProGrid, so lots of Z fighting. Oh, this is kind of cool. Oh yeah, this is some asset, some like sci-fi asset that I found. This doesn't look too bad, actually. It's a nice normal map. Okay. So here. Now I think I need it. I think that's a door. I think I just need to walk up to it and it should open up. Before I knew about vertex snapping. No, it just lines up correctly. It's just I wasn't a lot of the Z fighting was because I was like eyeing it and dragging it around. So oh yeah, so this door just opens automatically. All right, okay, so see, now I'm on this side, and where is the cube? Oh, yeah, I guess here was one of the cool things was you did not. What did I have to do here? It must be on the other side. You didn't have to look for the cube because you can just rotate it and have it fall down. What am I... Is there a solution? Oh, yeah, there we go, okay. Okay, so now I think the door is open. Is the door there? See, this is... Oh, yeah. Wait, how am I supposed to get there? Oh, right. Remember, I had the gravity changing. Yeah. Ah, right. I forgot. Remember, by pressing Q, I can change gravity direction. Well, we are doing Unfolding the Garden, which is looking at early builds of Manifold Garden. Right, I forgot. This is why I ended up getting rid of physics. Okay, you gotta like move out, then like move this guy a little bit over. Just like really hard to see that because I don't have them both in the same frame. Yeah, because it was moving so fast, I had to a lot of times the momentum would cause it to fly out of the way. All right, so okay. Now this was a very interesting level. So this is puzzle. I think this is 5. This is level 5. Now, so the intention here was you would have to rotate it, right? Like I gotta move over like this. You know, have this sphere fall along with me, and then it would get to the button at the end. That was the intention. Now, there was one of the things that oh man, this shift thing is killing me. Let's just restart this. So that was the intention. You had to like slowly move this along and change gravity and move this through the pipe. Now, Kevin Zune, he is the creative director at Octodad, and he's the creative director. Yeah, he works at Young Horses. He's the creative director on Octodad. And I remember when he played this, he managed to solve this with just changing gravity, just using Q. And so that was another really important lesson, which is like, sometimes players are just going to solve puzzles not the way you intended for them to be. So like hitting Q again, changing gravity, and then he just used the momentum. So he did not change gravity once. He did not shift the building once. So yeah, I guess the reason, okay. So there's two things, right? Like really with, I'm not so much changing, I can change the gravity direction. There's two, I can invert gravity direction, up or down, and then I'm rotating the building. So that's all it was. So it's not, so this is very, very different than how I was doing, how gravity change is implemented in the game now. It's like you have the ability to invert gravity, and you have the ability to rotate the building. So, so now we're back down to the even more intense version of kind of the rush hour puzzle. Now I know these are not great puzzles, but I do want to get to one of the puzzles at the end, because even though there were a lot of problems with this game, with this version, as you can see, I think there was the core of an idea that was really important, and it's that core that I want to talk about. Like, that core was really important, and it was, I think that the core idea kind of drove me with how I iterated on the game. Oh, this is another annoying thing too, right? Where you're like, I think I got it, and then you're like, oh no, okay. Oh yeah, so I think I had to change gravity a few times. Man, this gravity change is really slow. Who made this dumb game? Man, this puzzle is really not fun. Okay, now I think what this does, and then I can move this guy up. Oh yeah, move this guy over here. Alright, and now we touch this. This door opens. Now we go to get our or get our key. Oh yeah. So I think for some reason this thing also was affected by gravity. What? How did this thing even work? I hope I don't have to actually catch this dumb thing. This is really dumb. This is bad game design. This is not an intentional part of the puzzle. Oh yeah, and sometimes the it wouldn't lock, so it wouldn't snap to the grid. So you can see right now I'm sort of slightly tilted. Okay, so right. So this puzzle. I think this is the one that I'm talking about with the core idea. Oh yeah, and I can jump. I think this one was super difficult. Okay, so let's get this in there. Let's open it up. Now we've got the key. Let's come over here and where do I need to? Where do I put this key? Ah, okay. So I think I can grab it from the side. I think back then there was no, yeah, there wasn't really, I didn't have any restrictions on like when you can change gravity. Yeah. Okay, so once you get the key and you open up the lock, now the problem here. Okay, so you still, right, so I believe there was still another, yeah, so there was a red door in there that you got to open up. So I got to put the box on the red door. Ah, okay, so this is where something interesting starts to happen. And this is where, you know, even though there are a lot of problems, I think this puzzle kind of made me realize that there are different types of puzzles. Okay, so let's switch, or what makes an interesting puzzle. Okay, so, okay, right, so, you know, you learned before I have to put a box on the red button has to be held down in order for the red door to be open. And now the interesting thing is, now that I've got the box on the red button, I can't change gravity anymore, right? So, and this to me was a very interesting puzzle, because it meant there were two things that you had to do. One was you had to have these large blocks positioned in such a way that you could still traverse to the other side. Because if you had them, now I sort of did it unintentionally because there are just so many blocks that it's so easy to have a path form. But if you had it such that these blocks did not form a path, you know, and you'd be on the bottom, well, you would have to change gravity. You would have to shift the room. You'd have to rotate the room in order to get up here. But rotating the room would cause the box to fall off the button. All right, so I think that was like, yeah, there are a lot of problems with this build of the game, but I think that this was kind of unintentional how I stumbled across. It was kind of accidental how I stumbled across this, but that made this puzzle much more interesting than all of the others. And one of the things that I noticed when I was watching the Young Horses play, and especially Zoom, because he was very vocal. Like he'd go into, he'd walk into a room and he would think out loud. So he'd like would talk about what's going on in his mind. And one of the things he said was, so he'd go into all the rooms and he's like, oh, okay, I see. Like before he played around with anything, he's like, okay, well, there's a door, there's a key, here's a box, there's a button, I gotta get the box on the button, get this key to the door. That's how I solve it. So he would like solve it in his head and then he would go and execute it, right? And this one actually stumped him because he put the box on top of the button. I mean, he wasn't stuck, but he put the box on top of the button and then he was like, oh, interesting. Now, how do I get over there? And so one of the things that I've been doing with puzzle design in Manifold Garden is avoiding having puzzles that you can solve in your head from just looking at it. Like you do, that there's sort of an like you sort of obfuscate the kind of some of the steps that are involved and forcing player to make compromises, right? Like you do have to think ahead here, and once you put the box on the button, then you can't do the thing that you were doing before, and that all of a sudden makes it a lot more interesting. So I believe because of the platforming aspects I can still make it across. All right. Oh, we're back here again? It's weird. Oh, right. He also, that was another thing he did, was he managed to trick it where you can release the box and have it go through the doors before they close and hit the red button. And then you can still sneak in. Alright, let's see what else here. You've unlocked the... Did I just... Huh. I guess this must just be restarting. Huh. So I think that was it. I feel like I must have shown him an earlier build that he played. But that was basically what we got to there. That was, yeah, it looks like I might have just looped back around. All right, let me look at one more from a few days later just to see if anything changed, and then I'll talk about kind of what I did next. Oops, let me move this over. There's some spoiler stuff in there. Not really. All right, Unity Relativity 5. Executable. So this isn't a few days later. Let me see if I change anything. Ah. Right. Okay. So that was okay. So very cool. You can see I started a new project. That was on Unity 4. Did I have any? I didn't. Okay, I did not make any executable. So yeah, Relativity 03. That was the version that I showed them, and we played the March 13, 2013 build. And I think after that, it was a very eye-opening experience. And yeah, it was very eye-opening because I went in thinking that I was this genius game designer, and I've been working on a game for 3 months, and it's going to be the next Portal. And the schmucks have been working on their game Octodad for two years, almost 2 years at that point with the big team, and I was like, these guys have no idea what they're doing. And I went in and just kind of had that completely changed around. Like there were all these design problems. None of the puzzles were solved the way I intended them to be solved. None of the puzzles had the impact I wanted them to have. They all went in and was like, right, like Zun's experience was, oh, okay, I see exactly what I got to do. I got to do it, and then there'd be all these like execution problems that they get frustrated with. I think I showed Zun one of the earlier builds because I must have had a bunch of builds on my computer, and I showed him one of the earlier builds that we looked at last week. So there was one where you had to like fall through a bunch of different tunnels, and I remember Zun's, like, you fall out of the tunnel and then you have to like walk all the way back to the beginning. And I remember Zun's comment was like, you know, if you're gonna make me walk back to the beginning, you should just kill me. Just make a fast reset state. So I'm trying to talk about a few of the things that I've learned from that experience, because it was really important. And as devastated as I was with all the problems that the game had, it taught me a lot, and I think I'm really, really thankful I had that experience. So let's see. So yeah, there were, in terms of puzzles, I kind of realized that there was a difference between puzzles that you could solve in your head from looking at it, and then puzzles where you had to experiment a bit. And I think the ones where you had to experiment are much better. I don't have a term for it. I'm just like puzzles you can't solve in your head. And taught me the importance of playtesting, because what you think is how, you might have an idea of how puzzles should be solved and how levels should be played, and people will approach it completely differently. So playtesting is really important. Just the rotation, there was like a lot of game feel stuff, right? Like all the rotation didn't work, wasn't really fun. They were like, why do I need to rotate to the left or to the right when really I'm only ever using the rotate forward direction? By having the room rotate, then all the boxes would end up in the bottom left corner, which wasn't very interesting. So it limited a lot the level design I could do. And just game development is much harder than I had expected it to be. So, I think the days later I was kind of depressed, and I was talking to my friend Andy. He's another game developer here in Chicago, and he had a really interesting question for me. He said, what is, I showed him the game. Andy played the game too, I think this same version. And he asked me, what is the meaning of your mechanic? Not sort of in the context of the game, but like what's the symbolism of it? And I said, well, really what I want is for the game to be this, the meaning of the game is that it's letting you see things from different perspectives, right? I want to, when you play the game, it's about learning to look at the world from a different perspective. And if you're looking at the world, so you have a problem, I guess, the level, and you have your perspective, which is, and in this case, it can literally is your perspective looking at it. And by rotating the room, what you're really doing is you're changing the problem, right? Like your perspective is staying the same, but you're changing the problem. Whereas I think really what I wanted to go for was for the problem to stay the same, but for you to change your perspective of it. If that makes any sense? So the game is, what I wanted to do is have you look at the problem stays the same, but you learn to look at it in a different perspective. But that doesn't make sense if I'm changing the room, because by rotating the room, I'm changing the problem, but my perspective is still the same. So, and I was like, you know what I should do is have the room stay the same, but have the player change rotation. So the room rotation stays the same, but the player's rotation changes. And that is, so now the room in this, or the problem, in this case the room, remains the same, but your perspective of it has changed. And so then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna redo the mechanic, and this time instead of having the room change, the room rotate, the player is going to rotate. So let's jump back into this. So now we're gonna look at, so I ended up going with, so you read it, so there's Relativity version 5, and this is in March 17, 2013, so about 4 days after I showed the game to the young horses. We'll take a look at this version. Okay, so okay, so here I started to do where I press space bar and I change gravity. Now, right, so I have to walk up to a wall to do it. I can't just change anywhere. And now you'll notice a few things. This, I can only interact with the blue box when I'm in this gravity, and when I switch to this gravity, I think I had to be facing straight up against it. Now it's changed to white, and I can't pick it up anymore. Right? So it's like, the idea was that it became part of the environment. Like, the environment was white, and everything else, anything that you could interact with had a color. And so this is, you could put this here. And there's a Rubik's Cube, so you press this and this finish and hit the level. Yeah, I decided, you know, I was gonna rewrite the game, and this time I was like, you know what, I am not gonna spend all the time focusing on what kind of textures to use, because I remember for that first version I'd spend like an entire afternoon looking at, you know, 50 different wood textures to pick the perfect one. And in the playtest I was like, nobody cared about those textures. Like, all of that, it just didn't work. I mean, you know, like, they didn't pay attention to that. It looked terrible, and it just wasn't working. And so I decided to move it over. So yeah, I was like, I'm gonna throw it all out. We're gonna start from the beginning, and this time I'm not gonna focus on the art style. I'm just gonna make sure that the gameplay is good. Alright, and again here is, right, so this is, we started off in this gravity, now I switch over to here, I'm in orange. You can also see I got rid of physics, right? These boxes, they just go straight up and down. It doesn't, so you can kind of put it over here, yeah, it slides off, but all in all, it doesn't tilt over, you don't have to deal with the weird rotation. Now I did, in the editor, I don't think I made a build, but in the editor, I did have like spheres and ramps that you can play with, but for the most part, I kind of got to this stage relatively quickly. Oh, this is interesting. Now, I haven't looked at this in a very, very long time. This build I have not... I think I have not looked at this build since 2013, so... okay, so... this is interesting. So see, look, I gotta get this cube across the gap, but, well, I guess I could just use my momentum and cheat it. But the idea was you had to rotate into here and use this to make a bridge. And a variation of this puzzle is actually in the game, is in the current version of the game, but a much more refined version. This doesn't even work. Yeah, I think okay, yes, but you can see like that is now part of the geometry. That's now part of the environment. And one thing that is, and see, these boxes don't fall. Like the blue stays frozen. But what was interesting was you could do, I believe you can do this. Switch into yellow. And you can press it and you can change. Oh, no, wait. Oh, wait. You can put it like this and let go as you change gravity. And the yellow box, if I can do it. I remember seeing some people do this. Alright, it's a little harder than it appears. Let's see, what was I doing here? Oh yeah, so this puzzle was to try to teach you that you can like place stuff above you. Now the idea is still in Manifold Garden, but implemented very, very differently. But this was the first version, right? The idea was you had to like kind of lift it up, but it's not good because you can't see where you're putting it on. You can't see what you're putting it on. So this is really where I think Manifold Garden begins. Like I had that other version, and I do trace the route back to that because I did have to make that version to then totally throw out to make this one. But I think the current version of the game, I would say this is the beginning, right? This is where, we have the walking up to a wall to change gravity. We've got cubes of different color, each associated with a different gravity and only falling in that gravity and only active in that gravity, and starting to kind of use objects that fall and belong in different gravity to use them together to accomplish something. Oh, this is a good one. This is one of my favorite puzzles in the current game, and it's so funny that it's here. I am not sure if I should solve it. I think I will, but just a heads up, this is a fun puzzle to kind of figure out. Maybe if you tune back in like 5 minutes, but it is very different. It's interesting to look at how the puzzle is implemented now and what it's like here and just how the environment has changed. Yeah, so with this one, right, it was you put the yellow box on, you had the staircase, and then when you switch into blue, the yellow one stayed. And this was something that I discovered when I was playing with it. So this is, I think, goes... if you guys follow Jonathan Blow's work and his approach to puzzle design, he talks about how, games as a way to uncover truth about the universe. You set up this mechanics, you create this mechanic and you start playing with it, and that mechanic reveals stuff about the nature of the universe. And this was one of those things where, and I think when you design a game like that, you have the mechanic. And when it's a good mechanic, when you start playing with it, you start being like, oh, I didn't realize I could do this. Like, you kind of discover all these properties that are a consequence of these basic axioms. And just by, and the thing I had was blue boxes are only active when you're in the blue gravity. At this point, I didn't have the color gravity, but you know, yellow is only active when you're in that direction, and as a consequence, I was able to, you know, you're able to kind of have these blocks floating in the air. And so we put the blue one there, and now we kind of come back up. So this is kind of an awkward placement with the way the stairs are, but yeah. Let me switch here. Blue. And I think some of this I may not have kept. So here's a yellow box. I'm trying to. Here's an orange one. I'll be honest, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Okay, so we want to get the orange box on top of there. Oh, okay, so here we have to use it as a stepping. Okay, and this is where, so I'll talk about kind of what happened afterwards and what I was doing with my life. You know, at that time, I was still really focused on my installation art. Talked about this last week. You know, I was kind of doing installation art for about a year, a little over a year, before I started working on this game. I did a lot of artist residencies. I would go to, you know, an art center and stay there for a few months and kind of focus on the art. And at the time I had applied and gone into this residency in Shanghai at the Swatch Art Peace Hotel. So it was a 6-month residency. And I was starting in April of 2013. So I think my plan originally was to go there, do the installation stuff, but I decided instead that I would take the time to work on this game. So this, I think it was a little bit farther than this when I left, and I was like, well, you know, I think there's something really interesting. I know it looks like crap right now. Plus, I was very naive, and I thought, you know, why don't I spend 6 months working on the game and see if I can like find something there. You know, basically decide if it's worth it to continue working on it. So that was and I was living, and that was a very good environment because I was living with a bunch of artists, right? We're all living in the same building. They're just down the hall. There was like 20 of them, and so I was constantly able to find people to come and play test the game. And I realize now that that was a really, really important. I wasn't even like playtesting to get feedback to like test the pacing of the levels. I just wanted to show some people. But that was a really, really great way to get feedback. All right, so here. And I remember one of the things they said was like, so when I started introducing boxes of other colors, people were like, you know, I can't tell which one is which anymore. Like, I thought the idea of like making it white so that it showed that it was part of the environment was a good choice, but people were like, I don't know which one was the yellow box and which one was the orange box. This is interesting. I think I still, it looks like I can change, it looks like I can both jump and and then they were also like, I don't know when I'm close enough to pick it up. Anyway, I have to use that, step on, use 2 different, so in this case you have to use 3 different gravities. So, This is funny. So this feels like an overly complicated puzzle, just by the number of boxes. Like I don't usually. There are very few puzzles in the game that require you to have this many boxes now. I don't even know what I'm trying to do here. Yeah, this puzzle does not communicate very well its purpose. I think maybe I had to like get the red box all the way up here. Oh, you know what it is? Is like, wait, what? Somehow I gotta bring the red box up, and then, but there needed to be. Yeah, this is overly complicated. Anyway, I won't keep going with this version, but I just want to show you kind of where it sort of all began, and you can see with where the game is at now. I mean, a lot of the visual decisions all sort of started from here. It was like I had this, and then I just added. I would make changes to the art style based on complaints that people had. Like they said, okay, I can't tell, you know, which color. I don't know which color wall this is anymore, or which color boxes these were. So I started to add some of those indications, right? So just look at the latest version of the game. It's funny. I mean, you know, this is what the game looks like now, and it's so different than what we have here. But this is the root of it. Right? This is like you know, just kind of looking at how different the game is. Some of these are bugs, to be fair, and it's pretty interesting. But yeah, you can see kind of the lines leading to the doors, the floor being colored. You know, the reticle shows you that you're holding on to it. So anyway, the game's come a long way. Just thought I'd share this with you guys. So next week we will continue on from here. So we'll look at the April versions, basically when I went to Shanghai and started the residency. Yeah, if I'd shown myself these screenshots then, I mean, it'd be... They look like completely different games. And I remember with the early version, I was like, why is no one covering my game? Why does no one want to write about it? Yeah, so these are, I don't have builds of the game, just screenshots, but you can see I experimented initially with ramps and spheres. Like you could have this stuff roll down, so there was still some physics. You can just see that the cubes were colliding, and then it was kind of pretty soon I decided it just wasn't a good I still had a lot of the problems, and it was like, okay, well, this made it harder, you know, because then, well, if this is frozen and you change gravity, does that mean you can like change onto the side? So a lot of that just didn't work. Yeah, here you can see I'm putting a sphere on this button, and you can see it's still the old button. Red door. That's a red door from the previous build. Anyway, by the way, it sort of looks like I got the timing wrong in some of these. I think this is actually still 20. And then we slowly get into this. So next week we'll talk about kind of where I started to add just a bit of a preview. You know, I started to add having a color on the floor because somebody said they were complaining they couldn't tell which wall was which gravity was which color, and they suggested having all the walls colored, but that looked really bad. It was like this Easter color theme. So I just made and I decided you only needed the floor to be colored. So added that. We start to play with, instead of buttons, because I realized you can use kind of different boxes on the button. Not always the one intended, so we switched to using kind of the switches that was linked to the color. And you can still see we have the same electricity from before. So anyway, we'll talk more about these builds in the next episode. But yeah, that wraps up episode 2 of Manifold Garden. So we basically only looked at March 2013 this time around, but there was a lot to cover. It was a very, very important moment in the development timeline of Manifold Garden. Anyway, that has been the second episode of Unfolding the Garden. So this is you're just joining us. This is a weekly stream where 1 p.m. Central Time, 1800 hour UTC, I look at early builds of Manifold Garden in chronological order. Last episode we covered November 2012 to February 2013, and this episode we looked at March 2013. My hope is that as we sort of get close to the present, I'll be getting close to shipping Manifold Garden. We're already in the final stretch. Anyway, did you guys have any questions about what I showed here today? I'll stick around for 5-10 minutes. It'll also be a development stream a little bit later this afternoon. I'm going to take a quick break. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions about what we looked at today. Oh man, I made tea and I forgot to drink it. I'll go get a cup of tea, and you guys can post your questions. Amazing, this tea is still hot. I put it in the teapot, I brewed it just before I started the stream, so it was like 1 p.m. Now it's 2:30, and it's still hot. Amazing. Just brewed it for an hour. So those connecting lines are still in the game. Yeah, they look different. How much time did I spend roughly on the game per week during that period? I was working full-time on it. I was still doing some installation work, so let's see here. Let's go to my website, williamcheer.com. Yeah, so I was still doing these installation work. So this was January 2013. right? I was still kind of doing this as my primary work. So this is December 2012. So I think there was probably, so yeah, I don't think I was full time on the game. You know, there was still the way with these installation projects worked is I'd be on site for, you know, a full week making the things, but there was a lot of prep work before that. So I think maybe like 20-30 hours at that point. Yeah, so I wasn't completely full time on it yet. I was still doing some work with this, but that was like when you can see I stopped doing any work after that, but there was still kind of stuff to follow up with. How much, even at this point, you could only change gravity directions when on the floor. You can change gravity if you're in midair. It's not so much about whether you're on the floor or not. It's about whether there's a surface in front of you. Do I think I'll add in a making of thing as a DLC? I don't really know how that would work. You know, I was thinking it would be cool if there was a way you could access these builds from the final version of the game, but that would be kind of a technical nightmare, right? Because I'd have to bring in all the code, and a lot of that stuff was in Unity, earlier versions of Unity. I started with Unity 3, it's been Unity 4, Unity 5, and now they're on like Unity 2017. So I'm not, you know, and I think a lot of the properties are inherent, at least with the early ones, are very much just kind of the default engine stuff. So I don't think that would work. I guess I could on Steam include old versions of the build. I think there are, like, you can use different branches. I'm not opposed to that, but that would not include the early ones, and I'm not sure if they'd be fun or just more interesting from like a game design study perspective. In theory, you could fly by changing your personal gravity. Not quite. I mean, you can't really. No, not really. It's like if you were falling and there was a surface in front of you, you could change gravity on there. But it's not. But you're not really flying. So no. You take isolated scenes and recreate them to get the visual effect without integrating the entire. Yeah, I could, but it's it'd still be a lot of work. I'd still have to have like different versions. I mean, I don't know what the point of it would be, because they're just really bad versions of the game, right? It's just like there's a reason why I no longer have these scenes, or there's a reason why the game no longer looks like that. Yeah, I think so. I'm kind of doing this instead, just as a way to talk about the ideas. But I think in terms of the final version, I don't think it's gonna have. You're not gonna be able to play the old build. So no, there will not be a DLC with early builds of the game, and you cannot access them from the final version. Yeah, maybe I'll upload the old versions onto Steam, but probably not. I'll just link people to these videos. All right. Anyway, I am going to take a break, get some food, and I will be back a little later this afternoon, another hour or two, with some development stream. Cool. So yeah, next week we'll pick up from where we just stopped, and thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you all around. All right. Bye bye.